Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, a space for spiritual entrepreneurs who refuse to settle for anything less than their purpose. I am your host, Lauren Perlingi. After surviving a near-death experience and being declared gone for 3 minutes, I woke up with a mission to help women turn self-sabotage into self-compassion and fear into fuel. Here, we're going to dive into raw conversations, practical tools, and inspiring stories designed to help you break free from old patterns, claim your voice, and build a business that lights up your soul. If you've ever felt like you don't fit the mold, you're in the right place. This is where Misfits rise into their power. Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, the podcast for heart-led, soulful-driven entrepreneurs who are done doing business the old way. I'm your host, Lauren Perlingi, an intuitive human design business guide and trauma healer, also the founder of Mermaid Light. And I am joined by Maggie, a strategist, business advisor, and mentor for women entrepreneurs ready to grow in a way that feels aligned. Welcome, Maggie. I'm so happy to have you here with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am also so excited to be here. I feel like this is kind of one of those really wonderful opportunities and just all of the things that, well, number one, we're going to talk about, but all of the things that we've been co-creating over these last few weeks. I'm just so excited to be here to dive into it all and just to share with your audience.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so excited. So kind of tell the listeners about kind of like who you are and a little bit of your backstory so they can kind of get to know you before we dive into all the goodness we're going to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. So I would consider myself a serial entrepreneur. I've owned businesses since 2007. I started my first business as a photographer. I worked in corporate, and if you can't tell by now, I'm a manifesting generator. So I love to do all the things. However, when I worked in corporate, I really kind of realized I was not meant for the corporate life. That was just one of those things that it was like I dreaded going to work every day, and the job was okay. It was fun. But it wasn't like there was no room for me to grow in the job, and I could feel myself outgrowing the company as a whole. So I felt very boxed in. So I quit. I rage quit in 2013 at the end of the year, and in mid to late 2014, I actually wound up purchasing the yoga studio that I practiced at, that I trained at. I purchased that, and then that really kind of kicked off that desire to help more people in different ways. So, as a photographer, it was one of those things where, yes, I can take and I can capture family moments and beautiful photos for you. Learning to teach yoga really taught me how to help people mindfully understand their body and kind of what they are feeling inside their body. And then, when COVID happened and everything shut down, that then also gave me pause to really think, is this what I want to continue doing? Do I want the yoga studio to stay open? Do I want to push through, or is there something different for me? And ultimately, I chose, coming online, getting into coaching, and just really kind of following that urge to not stay in the same mundane thing, which, is so interesting. For a long time, I felt a lot of shame and guilt for quote unquote quitting, right? Because I quit my job. I didn't quit photography, but I pulled back when I opened the studio. I had the studio, I created a yoga teacher training, and then in 2020, just basically cut off an arm and said, nope, I'm closing. So there was a lot of shame and guilt that I had to work through over the last 6 years. And it's been really interesting to see how human design coincides with all of that as I've worked through that and kind of just healed myself, really.
Yeah. And I love that because we both connected really deeply on human design.
Yes.
Sign. I'm thinking back, how do how, how do we connect? I don't know. I think somebody connected me with you because they
I
heard
think
about
so.
me doing human design, and I was like, oh, I got to know her. I feel like I always have to know people that it's like, you know, you think in your mind, like you think it's like everybody knows about human design, and when you actually really talk about it, people are like, no idea.
What's
I've
this?
heard of it. Yeah, like I've heard of it, right? But um like I don't know, like they look at the chart and they're like, nah, no, I'm not doing this. Like I feel like that was me. When I read the word projector about 10 years ago. I'm like, there's no fucking way. No way. I am not the problem. Everybody else is the problem, however.
Right. Yes.
I was the
Yes.
problem. So, I love that anyway, I love that we both can connect on a deep level about human design, especially in business too. And specifically with all of your expertise and your years of experience as being a serial entrepreneur. Like, can you kind of tell us a little bit about like human design and like how, it probably felt overwhelming at first, like it does for most people. Like, how do you simplify it for your clients or just entrepreneurs in general, like so it can become very practical, like a practical business tool instead of like another thing to figure out. That's like what I keep hearing all the time. It's like, oh, it's another thing that I need to figure out. So what would
Mhm.
like can you kind of like dumb it down or like simplify it? Or
Yeah, for
how do you do
sure.
that for people? Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you ask this question because simplicity is literally in my chart. Like it's part of my like human design, like the things that I have quote unquote like turned on or defined like all point to simplicity. And so like over my entire really looking back over my entire life, I've always been looking for ways to like simplify things, make it easier to understand so I can do it quicker or so that I can have like get to the outcome quicker, which very manifesting generator of me
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
But when, so like when I work with clients and they are relatively new to their design or they've looked at their design and they've, read all the things, they've learned all about all the different things, but they're like, but how do I know? How do I use it? I think that's the biggest question that I'm seeing and hearing from a lot of people. How do I use it? I've learned it and great, it's here, but like, what do I do now? So, something that I do with my clients is we go through and we start to understand like, okay, how does a yes feel in your body? How does a no feel in your body? Right? So it starts getting into that um signature theme, the not self, and then we also look at their motivation. So, like, how does it feel when you're motivated? How does it feel when you're not motivated to do things? And exploring how your body feels, which, like, at this point in my entrepreneur career, looking back and, like, like moving through kind of like the guilt of opening and closing a couple different businesses. Like I needed to go through that in order to get to where I am today. Like I needed to have yoga and I needed to learn how to teach yoga. I needed to learn how to teach others to teach yoga. I needed to learn that upper master level of yoga teaching in order to be able to help people understand how to feel in their body, like how to get them to go from being in their brain to like dropping down so that they can start to understand, oh, this is what it feels like when it's a yes, or oh, here's how my body reacts when it's a no. And when I'm really motivated to do something, this is what it feels like. Here's what I want to do. And when I'm not motivated to do something, these are the things that I do. So looking at your tendencies and then being able to like name them. And then when you're in that like not self or, in that like, oh my God, I need to just get consistent. Like, well, okay, but like what is going to motivate you? When you feel good, what are you doing? Right? Where does it feel good to show up? How does it like, is a talking head real better for you? Or is a carousel better for you? Like, and then you create the consistency on the back of understanding that self theme, right? The signature theme, the motivation, some of those like nuanced things. that's how then you create consistency because I believe everyone can be consistent. I don't think everyone can be consistent in the same ways, but everyone has the capacity to be consistent, right? Like
Right.
we go to bed every night, we wake up every morning. That is a consistent routine, right?
Right.
You eat food every day. That is a consistent routine. So you can't tell me you can't be consistent.
Yeah. And I like talk about consistency. I love that because I feel like that is another, how do I word this? Probably excuse that all of us tell ourselves, that it's like, oh, I can't be consistent like that, or I can't do that strategy. Or it's like for me, like when I'm looking or like I'm listening to somebody, it's like, well, let's just say I'm a projector. I am a projector, obviously. You're a manifesting generator. Our consistency is going to look different because we are different. Our charts are different. Our gates are different. Our channels are different. The energy in our body is different. But I feel like at the end of the day, like we have very similar experiences. Like I'm a yoga teacher. Not that I taught yoga, like not that I taught, I taught yoga. I didn't teach other instructors, but you're right. It actually started, that's what kept me in my body of like, oh, this is what this feels like. This is why I don't want it doesn't feel good. It's like uncomfortable, right?
Hmm.
So it's like, human design also taught me that it's like, oh, I gotta go into my body. Obviously, me having an emotional authority, I had to also get my emotions in check too. And I think that personally, like what I've seen, and I'm sure you too, you have as well, is like the transformation that the way that people lead or make decisions, or like structure their businesses. Like, can you kind of go into like what you've personally seen, like how human design transformed the way that people lead, pretty much
Yeah.
make decisions
Yeah.
or structure their business, all three.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So, first, I want to say that I think, talking about consistency, I think people get consistency confused with hustle. And,
Yeah.
like consistency is not hustle. And, knowing that I would say from like 2000, at least that's when I became aware of like the hustle era was like the beginning, like 2000, everyone was like, gotta hustle, gotta make money, and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then into the like 2010s, like late 2010s, and then all of a sudden, like COVID happened, and like the hustle era was like chopped off, like a limb chopped off. Like nobody
Right.
hustles anymore, right? So then that I think gave people the excuse to not be consistent in their business, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, other things are in baked into that, but like
Right.
consistency is not hustle. You can be consistent without hustling or feeling like you're hustling. And I think that when we look at like how people have their business structured, because we're really kind of in an era of rebuilding, right?
Right.
As far as like businesses go, like there is like nothing necessarily like new under the sun, but there are new ideas to like, oh, I don't have to follow this exact strategy that got this exact person those exact results. I can take that information, take and keep what I need that feels really good to me, that feels exciting, that feels like, yes, I can implement this. And then I can put that into my business and I can start to create those building blocks of my business for myself. I think that's where like we've taken down the hustle era and now we're rebuilding the consistency era where it's like, okay, I want to be in my business no more than 20 hours a week. Okay, great. Well, you have to schedule time to create the content, make sure you're posting it, make sure you're like getting out to cool and cold leads. And then you have that next layer of like influence where you have to make sure you're also creating some marketing for the people who are waiting to buy or wanting to buy or warming up, whether that's through email, through, podcasting, through whatever that is. There's a million ways. You cannot do them all, but you
Right.
can choose the ones that feel really good. And I think
Right.
like right, like the hustle era taught us post everywhere all the time, don't stop, right? Now,
Exhausting.
right, yeah, like now it's exhausting for a manifesting generator. I can't imagine how it feels to be like anyone else because I can't keep up with it and I have a lot of energy, right? So, building this consistency is like, okay, what platforms really light me up? Where do I feel like I can really be connected to my people? Like there's tons of platforms. So just because somebody's like, you have to be on Instagram, you have to be on TikTok, you have to, right? Like it doesn't mean that it's right for you. So you have
Right.
to understand, like, how does your body react when someone says you have to be on blah, 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 right? If you're like, ugh, no, right? Like,
Right.
you don't have to force yourself into doing that. You can explore other options because I truly believe that clients are everywhere. They're just waiting to connect with you.
Right. Yeah. I always say there's 8 billion people in this world. And like, here's the thing too, like, and I think maybe it's just because how I'm like, my brain is wired. And, like if you would look at my chart, people are like, you're not a projector. You do all the things. Well, I mean, I do have a lot of defined centers, except for the two most important centers, I feel like, to keep me grounded here, which is grounding is like really, really important. But like I've known that from my chart of like this ping pong reaction that goes around in my head sometimes, or it's like it's like, oh, I gotta go do this, I gotta do this. And it's like, some people relate this to my ADHD brain. However, yes, I was diagnosed in Western medicine with like ADHD or ADD at the time. But like that's here nor there. I feel like that is now my superpower. And I feel like from, like just understanding my human design, it's like I often hear people, and I'm going to say this, and I feel like I'm valid to say this as projectors always have the excuse of limiting themselves. Like we all limit ourselves. Like I used to tell myself, oh, I'm an Aquarius and my Aquarius sun, that's why I'm so detached. Or like my Pisces moon makes me so emotional and like whatever. And I can't control my emotions because that or what. Like there's always some label that I put upon myself that limits myself. So it's like, when you're going back to like you talking about consistency, it's like us as humans, yes, we have to be careful, I feel like too, with like the way when you talk about leads, it's like my lead generation is going to be different than your lead generation. Do I like doing lead generation? In the beginning, no, I absolutely hated it. But now it's more of like, what do I like to do? And like making yourself magnetic. And it's like, that doesn't always work for everybody. Like, depending on how your chart is set up or what you picked in this lifetime, that's, I usually just say this is the way that your life is set up. Like,
Right.
does that
Yeah.
work for you? And I feel like the reason why I wanted to, in the beginning, when I reached out to you, is because I seen the way that you taught. Like, obviously, I stalked your social media, but I seen the way that you taught human design in a way, like, and business in a way that is very similar to me, but you teach the balance strategy and like intuition versus, oh, look at me, I made all this money, come do my thing or whatever. Like I feel like people or just teaching human design and then people are like, cool, great, perfect. I can't make the profit that you make because it's not energetically sustainable. So,
Hmm.
like, can you kind of tell the listeners about, what obviously I see, but in your own words, like how you help somebody scale to six figures? Because it's this 6 figure, I want to be like six figures, like it's like a thing right now of like
It is.
10 figures and like what I see, and I'm not gonna, I'll shut up so you can talk, but what I see is they're not explaining everything. And that's like the deceptive part and the part that I don't like about people saying like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Right. Yeah. And okay, so that like look at me, right? In my brain, in my I guess methods, you could say, like
Mhm.
there's like three levels of attraction, and this kind of fits into like the simplicity of business, right? So like you've got the attraction, the influence, and the sale, right? So attraction is like cold leads, influence is warm leads, sale is hot leads. And when you, as a business owner, can understand your client journey, right? What does it take for someone to go from like the top attraction, like, oh, I just stumbled across you on Instagram. How
Yeah.
cool. Great. Okay, well, that person who just discovered you is probably not going to go directly to the sale. So like, how do they get there? What
Right.
what is the path you want them to walk? But also, what is the path of least resistance? And that is really where my superpower comes in of helping people see like, oh, you've got 27 steps for people to get from like attraction where they follow you to making a sale. Can we maybe condense that to like 20 steps? Or maybe it's 10 steps or 5 steps. How, like, what do you want them to do? Because essentially in business, that's what we're doing. We're making people do what we want them to do. And like the end result is working with you, buying your product, opting into your coaching or whatever that thing is at the end. So when you understand your client journey, right? And this is like even if you're not into human design or anything like that, but I feel like when you are heart-centered, when you are soul-aligned, when you are more wooey, it's so much more important because we, as the woo community, right? I would say we tend to mess it up. We tend to muddy the waters because we're like, oh, people are going to need to understand. But like, people are smarter than we give them credit for.
Right.
And they need to know what to do next because it's not always going to be like obvious what the next step is. Now, from a business standpoint of like, okay, you want to earn 6 figures, great. I love that. How are you going to do that? Okay, well, how much do you need to earn per month in order to get to 6 figures? Now, this is the part for, like the soul-led and heart-aligned community that they don't really like because they don't like talking about money. And when I owned the yoga studio, that was
Yeah.
one of my biggest beefs was that, okay, so I'm going to teach yoga teachers how to teach a yoga class, but I'm not going to equip them with the different ways they can bring people into my studio, with the ways they can invite people in, they can share their classes, that they can bring money into the studio. Why would I not do that? Why would I not teach them the business framework of yoga in order for literally all of us to make more money, right? Like that, my end goal was to be able to pay my teachers a fair wage and we needed like 4 students minimum per class for me to pay them like $25 an hour because I was unwilling to go under that amount of money, right? So I had to, for that example, I had to figure that out. How did I get to knowing what I had to charge, how many people came in, right? I had to sit down and figure that out. And that's something that a lot of people in the soul aligned community don't like to look at because numbers can be scary. Money
Right.
can be scary, right? Like we talk about manifestation, but okay, you can put all the good thoughts out there, but you still have to take the actions to get there. So, if you're a coach and you're listening to this and you're like, okay, but I'm not selling yoga classes for 10 or 20 bucks, like what do I do? You're going to need to know like how many clients do you need to close each month in order to make whatever you want to make. If you want to make 6 figures, that's, we'll say you need to make $10,000 a month just because it's easy math, right?
Right.
For most coaches, that's probably 2 sales per month if you have a $5,000 package. Okay, you need to sell two spots per month every month in order to have that consistent income. Okay, so back it up further. How many sales calls is that? What's your closing rate, right? Is it 10%? Is it 20? Is it 40? You have to take into account how warm are your leads that are coming into your sales call, which is why the DMs for me are so important because most people who are coming to a sales call, I've already kind of pre-qualified them in the DMs, right? So
Right.
my close rate is much higher because I've already done all the footwork in the DMs. But if your close rate is 10%, okay, you need to have 20 sales calls in a month in order to close 2 clients. So back that up even further, and this is where people forget to back it up further. Okay, you've had 20 calls in a month, which is what, 5 calls a week. Okay, how many people do you need to talk to? How many people do you need to influence and attract or attract and influence in order to get to those 20 sales calls in a month. And that's where people miss and they don't understand, like, oh, I've actually got to have like 100 conversations in a month to get to those 20 sales calls, to get to those two sales, which sounds like a lot. But when you use tools that feel easy for you to use, it's not that hard, right? It's going to come more natural.
Yeah.
So that's the short version, I would say, right, of how I kind of
Yeah.
break it down because
Yeah.
when your brain can see those numbers to go, okay, I don't want to have 20 sales calls a month. Okay, cool,
Right.
great. How do we refine that so you don't have to have 20 sales calls a month, but you can still close two sales in a month, right? So
Right.
you're refining your process because when you know your numbers, it's easy to play with. Like, okay, maybe I'll have a master class and I'm going to use the master class to close people into to bring people into a sales call that feel aligned. Okay, cool. Now you're going to feed people to that master class that you're having. You're going to bring people in there instead of having, 100 different conversations. Well, how can you point people, join my master class? I'm talking about this really important thing over here. You don't want to miss it. I'm going to invite you, blah, 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 right? Like, do that. Have a
Right.
podcast, right? Like, you have to have calls to action in order for people to take the action.
Right. And I think that and follow up. Like when I
Yes.
ask, and here's the thing too, when somebody asked me what my sales, like what my client journey process was in the beginning, I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Like I just talk to people, give free information, whatever, like, and this is 5 years ago, but like I remember like even listening to you talk and like the process, you make it so easy to be like me when I was in the beginning, like I wish somebody would have made it that easy for me because sure, we all want more money. I'm all like now, like I'm realizing the money piece doesn't matter when you have that money story that's playing in your mind of like, you're not worthy to hold it. Your nervous system can't hold it. Like if somebody gave you $10 million today, what would you do with it? Like what would you like would you be able to energetically hold it? Like those type of questions. Like, if I'm being completely honest with myself, if somebody gave me $10 million, I'd probably be like, wait a second. What do I, like
Right.
just give it to me.
Ah.
It's like, oh my God, like, sure, I have different like resources that, I think at this point through the last 5 years of healing my own money story, I think if somebody gave me $1 million, yes, would know where to put it. Would know I could hold it or
Mhm.
that, like can flow through my account or whatever. Obviously it wouldn't be like just 1 million, but I feel like if you asked me this question 5 years ago, I wouldn't be able to even hold 100,000 or, like something like that. And it's like uh, every day I feel like I'm realizing that the money does not matter. Like it
Mhm.
just doesn't. And I feel like when I see coaches like, oh, I can get you to 10, like 10K. Sure. But it's like the backstory of like that or why you desire that or why you want that. It's like you have no real plan. And it's like that's kind of like what I'm seeing in the like in the industry right now. So,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about why we created this? Because of that and a lot of other things, we created, me and Maggie together created a workshop. And do you want to speak a little bit about the workshop that when you're listening to this is going to be out before or after the workshop. So we wanted to kind of give you guys some like golden nuggets from it.
Yeah. So, I think one of the reasons, at least for me, in saying yes to doing this workshop, was really to kind of come together with like all of the I would call it like trauma informed stuff
Mhm.
that you
Yeah.
bring.
Yeah.
And then to allow people to be like, oh, I actually don't have to carry this really heavy backpack of all these things that I should be doing. Like, I can set that down and I can work on it a little bit every day. And when the thoughts come up, I can deal with them and pack them away nicely. And then I can create simple structure that is able to be built upon, right? I can do things my own way. And I think, you know, if going back towards the beginning of the episode, talking about consistency, like I can do it my way. I can be consistent in my own way really gives you power. And that's something that I think both of us really offer to our clients is that you actually have a lot more power than you're realizing. And like you can tap into that. You can start doing it right now. Like you have to decide though, right? You can't you have to decide yes or no. And being in this like purgatory of should I, shouldn't I, like that's also a decision. And
Right.
like when I work with clients who are in that like I don't know, what should I do? And I'm like, you have to just be willing to make a choice and go out on a limb. And, like I don't love saying feel the fear and do it anyway, but also you're never going to be ready, right? You're never going to be ready to do the thing until you just step to the ledge and trust, right? And I'm not saying that as in trust, as in like just free fall, like free fall, throw it all to the wind. I'm saying like let's make it strategic. Like, yes, you've dealt with the money trauma because you can make money and still have all that money garbage thoughts, but like it's not going to continue consistently, right? You're going to
Right.
see those ups and downs until you deal with the money garbage. And like until you understand, like, oh, here's how and why. And some of that you can see in your gene keys and your human design, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's literally in the words you're saying. So if you find yourself saying the same kind of words all over, like all the time, right? When I started studying my gene keys, I realized like, oh, I was saying to myself, oh, I'm just going to half-ass it and I'm just going to go. And like my sun gate is gate 29, like literally the gate of the half-ass. I swear to God, right? Like, so, like I realized I was saying that and I'm like, oh my God, I've been sitting in that middle, like, should I, shouldn't I, not really making a choice because I like don't want to screw it up. Like, if I just make the choice, it's so much easier. Like, no, this doesn't align for me right now. Yes, this does align for me, right? Like when I started doing that, like that alone was like, oh my God, like mind blowing for me, like how efficient that worked, how simple it made everything. Nope, this doesn't align for me. Yes, this does align for me, right? Like, oh my gosh, it just opened so many doors in the craziest way.
Yeah, especially speaking about gene keys too. It's like the three, I don't think people realize, or maybe like, I don't know. I've never really seen this taught any this way of like you can, now that I know so much about human design and also studying gene keys, I'm realizing that like numerology based, it's like there is also frequencies of each gate in human design, but it's like
Mhm.
that's also not taught. But obviously, that is the gene key piece of it. And then, like, understanding it's like, oh, I can go from my shadow, which if you're in a shadow period, people always say you have to, I say this too, like, heal it to feel it. But it's like, if you're avoiding something so long, like an aha moment that I had in 2025 was that I was avoiding selling because I didn't want to burn out and I was focused so much on my systems. So I was focused so much on my systems that I wasn't selling, which then I kept asking myself, why am I not creating more income? And it's like
Mhm.
looking simply, like simply just at my gene keys or like my chart of like the, kind of like the light switch. It's like there has to be energy going to the light switch or the light switch is not going to like click on. And it's like, where is that? I'm really good for doing that for other people, listening to what they're saying. I'm looking at their chart. I'm like, okay, here it is. And it's usually trauma based. And I say this all the time, do not pay people tens and thousands of dollars for their program that they're literally just going to help you with something emotional or money related. That's the only two solutions that we ever have. Like, and it's
Mhm.
just something deeper or whatever. And I mean, like maybe I'll get canceled for saying this, but like stop. I always say stop doing that. Like you either need somebody to help you with like business or your emotions. And like sure, like money coaches are great, but it's like at the same time they're only doing that one thing. It's like that emotional or usually something emotional around money, or it's like something emotional. And I've noticed that, which is why I created my own method, my 90-second method of the three steps, because that actually is what gives you back that power. And I was like constantly like trying to figure out, why am I giving my power out? Because it's like money is like people give that so much power, but it's like not. It's like it's a birthright of
Mhm.
everybody. It doesn't matter who you are or what human
Right.
design you are. Like that's actually like a birthright. And I wanted to figure out how that I could, like create something that people could just be like, they can do it literally. I mean, obviously it's a process. I'll be teaching about that in the workshop, but like it's as easy as 90 seconds. And it's like
Right.
you keep that power, which that power is yours, but it's like we give it out, or it's like people pleasing or codependency or like trauma, or like there's just so much stuff that it's just like if we just keep that and move that way, I feel like people would, I don't even think people are aware of how much power they're giving out to money, to whatever, their business, other people, the things that they hate doing. It's like I guess I think I usually, the simple solution that I always tell people, I feel like, and I'm sure you do too, Maggie, is stop. If you
Hmm.
want different, stop. Like I know the universe has a very simple vocabulary. So what you think, feel, and say is literally what the universe says back is so be it. So if you
Hmm.
keep calling yourself broke, you keep telling yourself you have no clients, so be it. It's literally until you get so sick and tired of yourself. I mean, took me like a year to learn, I think,
Yeah.
in the beginning of like what I would tell myself or what I would say or how I was treating other people or mainly how I was treating myself, and realizing after reading The Secret, right, of like, I'm going to try this. Maybe this actually does work. So I changed how I spoke and how, yeah, and it's not magic. It's literally energy.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that's so interesting. I just saw a TikTok, and this guy that I follow, like this TikTok hit me so hard, and I was like, "Oh my God." He said, like, the opening line was like, "Stop saying it's a small business win." Right? Like when people come on and they're like, "Oh, here's a little business win." It's not little, it's big, right? Like celebrate everything as
Right.
if it's like monumental and I think it's either in The Secret or The Power, one of those two books, where it's like, no, like actually celebrate. You don't have to go out and throw yourself a $10,000 party for something that made you a dollar, but like take the time to celebrate that. Let it be safe in your body. Let it be like that you're creating self-trust when you're like, wow, look at this amazing win that I have for myself. Holy crap, I did that, right? Like, and
Right.
celebrating that. I think a lot of people, I would say women especially, I think it's just learned, right? Like from generations, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to keep myself small so that I don't take up a ton of space. And even if we don't mean to do it, it's kind of just one of those things that's been like passed down. And, like you don't have to keep doing that. You can stop. You can stand up and say, "Ah, I got my first client today," or "Ah, somebody grabbed my lead magnet. I'm so excited for them." Because that kind of energy is then going to show your cool and cold leads like, "Well, dang, that person's grabbing that thing. I want that. I want that thing too," right? So
Yeah.
it
I
kind of
need
create,
that.
right? Like it almost creates this like safe FOMO kind of right, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I need that too. Yeah, like I would love to learn how to, understand how my brain works, or like, yeah, I want to understand my human design so that I can generate more money in my business, so that I can use it and understand the feedback that my body is already giving me.
Yeah. No, I definitely, and I think that when you say self-trust, like people often just very like I'm really bad at doing like surface level conversations. Like it's just something that like I never really can do. I'm always asking deeper questions, but like surface level, if somebody were to say like, what's human design or like what is for you, of course I'm going to literally give them a very deep intellectual definition, but I've learned that if I just say self-trust or self-awareness tool, like that lands with people. And they're like,
Hmm.
okay, tell me more. And then that's when I can kind of go in more. I feel like for me, I had to learn how I could stop having so much deep conversations and like come back up to the surface of like where everybody else is, of like, you know, not everybody, but like, most of society is, and people waking up and like understanding what authentic feels like. I don't even know if some people even know how to be authentic,
Hmm.
because being vulnerable is so uncomfortable for them. In
Right.
my perspective, I haven't really figured out another way on how to be authentic. People, I hear it, I see it, I'm watching it from a non-place of judgment. Like I'm not judging people, but it's like, there's the energy frequency wise that if somebody is like, I'm authentic, I'm going to teach you how to be vulnerable. How does that look for you? Like
Hmm.
without that pressure, because all of their content is pressure, right? It's like the
Hmm.
words that and I'm saying this because I feel like for in your content and what I've seen from you, you do a really good job at like teaching lead generation in a way that feels like authentic or like
Hmm.
aligned. And I don't, I mean, I just met you like a month ago or something, a month ago, a month and a half
I
ago
think
or
so.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something like that. So it's like but you do a really good job of content. I feel like a lot of people, heart-centered space, spiritual entrepreneurs, healers, mentors, whatever they call themselves, that is like a huge challenge. I mean, I know it
Hmm.
was for me, like beginning of last year too, of like, how can I just be myself and just be myself? And it's like, just be yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
it's
yeah.
literally like when you say that, all I can think of is like in the movie Aladdin, where he's like, "Oh, I just want to impress Jasmine," and like the genie is like in his ear, like a little bee, and he's like, "Be yourself," and I'm like, "Yeah, like that's it. Like I want you to show up and be goofy and quirky and all those things because that's what's going to draw people to you. It's also going
Right.
to repel people for you, right? You can help anyone, and I tell my clients this all of the time. Yes, you can indeed help anyone, but you
Right.
cannot help everyone. You do not have enough time to help
Right.
everyone, nor is everyone going to be aligned with you. So like, yeah, let's bring in the people who like that quirkiness because I promise you there's 9 billion people. There's at least one other person who loves that type of quirky, right? No matter what
Right.
it is. And I feel like as you were talking, I was thinking about like I wonder if, so I don't have a ton of defined centers. So for a manifesting generator, I only have 3 centers that are defined, right? So everything else is relatively open. Like if you look at my chart and you separate design from personality, my like outward, like what people probably see of me is probably more aligned with a reflector because none of my centers are defined that way, right? Like my personality has no defined centers, but my
Wow.
design has defined centers. So like my design is a manifesting generator, which and that like seeing those two things separated for me really gave me the like, my God, no wonder why sometimes I have a really hard time connecting to my sacral. Holy crap. So,
Yeah.
like, so that taught me to pause, right? So, yes, I'm a sacral authority, but also if I'm not getting that sacral reaction, like, I almost have to treat it like an emotional authority, right? Where it's like, okay,
Interesting.
I've got to kind of wait, let things land. Yes, I get excited, but is that genuine excitement where it is aligned for me? Or is it excitement where I'm just like, my sacral's just like, wee, let's go, right? Like, that gate 29, let's say yes to everything, right? Like,
Yeah.
what does that look like? So, for some of this, I feel like for me at least, it comes back. So, I do not have a defined root, but I know the power of completing a cycle. right? And
Yeah.
I think what a lot of people forget is that rest is included in the cycle. Your root center wants you to rest.
Right.
So, and I don't mean rest like, take weeks off, although you can, you're welcome to. Your business, not mine.
Right.
I don't care.
Right.
However, but like what I tell my clients to do, how can you take time to rest and fill up your cup every single day? Whether that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, I don't care, right? Like for me, I start my day off with a cup of coffee. I wake up before anyone else in my house. I make the coffee. I stand in the kitchen in silence. And like, I'm so excited to have that cup of coffee. And then I start the day, right? So it's that like little
Yeah.
action of like, oh, okay, I'm ready to begin. And then, towards the end of the day, like I did create a hard boundary in my business to not work after a certain time. And I stick to that boundary because it's part of the cycle, right? So I would encourage anyone listening who's like, I don't know what to do. Like, start little, start small. It doesn't have to be this grand scale. It can be, oh, I'm going to enjoy my cup of coffee for 5 minutes in the beginning of the day. Or I'm going to get the kids out the door to school. And then when I come back to a quiet house, I'm going to sit, and I'm going to arrive here and allow myself to step into my day, right? And allow myself to make and do the things that are aligned for the day.
Yeah. And it's actually interesting. I'm part of a somatic renewal group with one of my mentors, and we had a call last night, and she was talking about, what's everybody's spiritual practice. And of course, all of us were like, not consistent. And it's interesting how it's always like these podcast episodes that I record are always like so synchronistic to like what the collective's going through, what I'm going through, what the other or the other podcast guests going through. And I feel like consistency was something that came up last night, or it's been coming up of like, how can I be consistent where it feels good? Because it's like some mornings, like this week, some of us had a huge snowstorm. Some of us kids have been out. And it's like, sure, I work from home and I also have a business and I'm also a mom, so it's like, I don't use that as an excuse of like, got to put my business on hold this week. It's like, no, you just figure it out. And it's like, when she asked that question, I wanted to say, oh, well, my daughter has been home. That was the excuse that wanted to come up. My daughter has been home this whole week with me, or will be, it's Thursday. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Have I really been consistent? Because it just happened this week. And it's like, no, like being very honest with myself. No, have I? Even if it's like 2 minutes or like having her meditate with me or like we're just sitting there and like talking and like you said, coming, like having time with spirit or your higher self or whatever, God, whatever your higher power, like whatever you believe in, of like just sitting in silence, which could be 1 or 2 minutes. And it's like when
Mhm.
people tell me they can't meditate, they don't have time. None of us have time. We all make
Right.
time. Like that is like, I'm like,
Right.
okay, none of us have time. Time's really not real. It's real, sure, linear in the 3D, but like that's just an excuse. But what other, like, and it's interesting, and I'm just saying it's like interesting for me and like interesting data because
Hmm.
it's also what they also tell themselves why they can't have a business, why they can't leave their job. And it's like, I always seem to be like asking those uncomfortable questions of like, why not? Why not? Like,
Hmm.
and it's like getting to that root of, you know, being more consistent. Or it's like you just said about, like your routine. And I think that in itself and consistency, like I'm not talking change your entire morning. I'm talking like it doesn't have to look, it's going to look different every day regardless of your energy type. And I feel like that is really powerful for people to understand, especially moms, especially if you're a single mom, if you have this life, you have that life, you have work a 9 to 5, you have like we all have like lifes all the time.
Hmm.
Like life
Hmm.
is not supposed to be easy. And I've also noticed like when life is easy, I'm like, what am I not doing? What's
Yeah.
going
We love
on?
to make chaos. Like
Yeah.
Humans love to make chaos in their life. And it's funny that you say like you can't tell me you don't have a minute to sit still and just breathe.
Breathe.
I think
Yeah.
people
Breathe.
get so uncomfortable
Yeah.
sitting still for a minute. So I do still teach yoga classes a couple times a week. And that is the biggest thing that I notice. And it's primarily women who are in my classes.
Yeah.
And I think it's so interesting, like to watch who is uncomfortable at what point in class, right? Because I begin and end my class with Shavasana, right? With final rest. Like
Yeah.
I begin it that way because most people have been going all day that to just lay on the floor for 2 minutes can feel like, what am I supposed to do? Right? Like
Right.
right? Where it's like, nope, you're going to arrive on your mat. You've got the first like 30 seconds to like wiggle it out, figure it out, but like then allow yourself stillness and then tune into
Right.
you. And it can look that easy as just literally setting a timer on your phone for 60 seconds and sitting down. I don't even care where. Like get comfy in it. Like please get comfy in a chair. You don't have to sit cross-legged on the floor. Like,
Right.
please, like,
Right. Right.
grab a blanket, a pillow, like, get snuggled in, like, make this luxurious. Um, and like, literally, like, allow yourself to have that, like, moment. And I would agree. You can't tell me you don't have at least 1 minute to sit still.
Right.
Uh, right when I teach my clients about generating leads, um, I am like I've created a framework where it's a 20-minute framework. You can do this framework many times a day as you want. I don't care, but at
Right.
least do it once. It's 20 minutes of your day. You can't tell me if I go and look at your phone and look at how long you've been on any of the social media apps. You can't tell me that there's not at least 20 minutes that you can't be spending doing it intentionally for your business, right? Like I
Right.
know you can. And part of that is self-trust. It's also a little bit of self-discipline, right? It's one of those like,
Yes.
do I want to make this work or am I just saying that I want this to work?
Right. And I love that point too, because I'm gonna call myself out here a little bit, is I was looking at my body, like trying to, not trying to shame my body, like, but I have experience of like body shame. I feel like all of us women do. And I said to myself, well, Lauren, why do you look like this again? And it's like, well, have you been going to the gym? Have you been eating right? Like, and I'm not shaming myself, but it's more of like I do a lot of mirror work and it's like calling myself out. And I was actually on a podcast, of course. And we were talking and it came up that like I felt like he was calling me out, but it's like I literally just had this conversation with myself in the mirror like the day before about, are you going to the gym? Are you even doing yoga? Are you doing your vibration plate? Like, are you eating correctly? Are you emotionally eating? Like all this stuff. And it's like, I hear so many people like say this about they can't be this because they're not there yet. And it's just like, how can I speak about emotional awareness? And like, sure, I still have emotional hiccups of like emotional awareness or, like this happened or like I wanted a donut or I ate something with sugar. I'm not gonna act like I'm perfect. And it's like, hello, go back to the gym. And it's like being in that energy of, I don't want to go to the gym, dropping my daughter off at school, then like coming home and like doing whatever I feel like doing or my business or like calls or whatever. It's not doing anything for me. So it's like, how about if I go to the gym and then listen to a podcast or like just listen to something? Because my husband makes fun of me. He goes like, how can you go to the gym and listen to a podcast? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't want to focus on me running on the treadmill. That's so like, I'm angry that I'm even here. But like I'm focused on, I have defined head. Like, like I need to be focused on something else. So I'm not focused on why I'm running on the treadmill for 25 minutes. Like this sucks. Like, but it's like I again don't have a connection from my root and my sacral. Like I don't have any connections there. I need to move my body. And it's like when I don't move my
Mhm.
body, that's when shit happens, like it's not ever good for me and my energy, so
Right.
it's like, but when I like move or like force myself to move and I realize that's on my own self-discipline and I'm,
Mhm.
like how am I, and it's like I never really felt like imposter syndrome sat in like kind of sat with me because I guess I never really would speak about something that I never really had an experience to, or I would never give advice or wisdom to that. I would just call myself out of like, yeah, I know. Like, yeah, I took myself back to the gym. Like, I kept paying for this membership that I'm not going to. And then I took myself back to the gym and like, then just, like, hey guys, for my own accountability, I'm at the gym now. Like, do I post it every week? No. But it's just having a feeling of like me posting that, I've gotten so many messages saying like you're so inspiring, you're doing all the things, you're doing this, and it's like that energy showing up and that energy is important. And I feel
Mhm.
like some people might think it's like, oh, I'm posting my whole life. Like, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that. I have no desire to blog my entire life. My life is pretty boring besides, those random things. And I said that, and somebody was like, your life isn't boring. People want to know. They're curious, So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, then I'll post more about stuff like that. But it's like, kind of, anyway, getting back to like the consistency, it's like being really honest with yourself. And
Mhm.
that's what I tell my clients too. And, you know, they listen to this podcast and, like I say for myself too, of like calling myself out, being like that leader of like, it's okay. It's okay that I paid for a membership for 4 months and didn't go to the gym and acted like my doing my vibration plate or like walking or whatever. Like I'm not saying that you need a gym membership, but for me, I have to physically go somewhere or
Mhm.
I will find something else in my house to do that will take me away from like what I need to do. And then like at the end of the day, I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? I should have just went to the gym. Like I could have ran
Mhm.
on the treadmill or whatever. Like I just feel like moving that like energy is important. However, I also do know how rest is a strategy of mine too. So it's like
Right.
I'm going to go to the gym and I'm also going to rest that day. And all of a sudden, I have all this energy. So it's like when I hear projectors say I don't have all the energy, it's more of like, where is your energy going? Like,
Mhm.
where is it going all day long?
Mhm.
That you can kind of filter it, through that way. And I feel like that's, wrapping it up in a little bow tie, a pink bow tie for everybody. That I think is why pretty much we decided to do, this, workshop together. And I think that, can you kind of speak to the women listening before we wrap up? First, let them know where that they can find you. And if a woman is listening to this, or man, whoever's listening, that knows that he or she is meant for bigger things, like what is like one place that they can start?
Okay, so you can find me. Well, all the links will be below, but you can connect with me on Instagram. You can find me at Maggie Lynn with two N's mentoring. You could also go over to my Chaos to Clarity podcast. I talk about all of the business stuff all the time over there. But I think something that I wanted to point out that I think is important that you said, Lauren, is that, you're doing these things and it feels a little inconsistent, but I think that's okay because what if that consistency, like what if that is your consistency? And with an open or undefined root center, movement is how you get the sacral, the root to like get going. It's like warming up, right? Like
Right.
if anyone out there has a diesel engine, you have to let the diesel engine warm up. And like right now, it's I don't know, probably still 5 below 0 in Wisconsin, and it's like 10 degrees where you are, right? So, like, you
Right.
have to let the car warm up before you can get moving. And, I think as you're talking about, like, oh, I need to move my body, I've paid for this gym membership, like, if you were my client, I would say, okay, how can you make time to go just once this week? It doesn't have
Right.
to be
Yeah.
5 days a week, right? Like, and how can you make sure you're getting rest at least once this week, right? And like
Right.
honing in on that. So, getting back to like what is one small step that anyone who's listening can do? Well, from a business perspective, how can you have at least one new conversation this week with someone who's either followed you or would be an ideal client. Now, this doesn't have to be you sliding into their DMs going, buy my thing, right? No, no. We are creating conversations. So like, how can you, if somebody follow, this is a really great way to create a conversation. When somebody follows you, you go and check out their profile. If they are an aligned match that feels good for you, you follow them back and then you send them a message and you say, hey, Susie, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks so much for following along. I loved whatever XYZ post you had. I would love to connect more if it feels aligned to you. And now you have made a connection, right? You've kind of crossed that bridge. It doesn't feel spammy. It doesn't feel like, hey, buy my stuff. It feels like an invitation, right? So if that person is a projector, it's kind of like an invitation to them to have a conversation. If they are a sacral generator, right? Or Gen. Oh, cool. Well, now that gives that person something to respond to, right? If
Right.
they're a manifester, oh, okay, now that person gets to inform you of what they're doing, right? And we don't know everybody's human design, but we can still be human and have a conversation. I think that's where sometimes things get like amiss is like you can still have a conversation and share what you're doing in business and it not be a sales call.
Yeah, I think that's a really good touch point, like in a golden nugget too, because I have people all the time reach out to me in the DMs, and if I wanted to, I could use the trauma that I had or that experience that I had of like people just reaching out to me and like buy my thing, but like genuinely people are, there's people still like, whatever. But usually, sometimes if I feel like sassy enough that I'm like, hey, can I teach you how to actually have a conversation? Be more than happy to help you with that. However, no, I'm not interested. Or usually sometimes if like I don't really even care, I'm like, no, thank you. And then like that's it,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like, I would love to help you be able to have a conversation that they're also from all of that stuff from 2020, 2021, 2022, all of that shit that's not working anymore. Like, I think people just think when somebody reaches out to you, they want to sell something to you. It's like you don't get mad when Amazon reaches out to you about their sale. Like, you
Right.
don't get mad when your favorite brand reaches out to you because they want you to go buy this new thing. So, like, why are we, in my mind, I don't, and I still don't know the answer, and you probably don't know either, Maggie, but like, why do humans get mad at other humans that want to have a conversation? I never understood it. I get if you want to use your trauma to like being salesy, but like genuinely I think a lot of people, and if it's like in your network, literally just want to have a conversation. Like if
Right.
I've never mentioned, I'm not going to ever reach out to anybody and offer whatever unless they engage or unless they say message me like and they give me permission, or if they've been following my stuff I'll ask like, hey, do you want more information or whatever, and they could just simply say, no, I'm just showing you love. Perfect, that's okay. Usually
Yep.
those people are the same people that sign up with me, or they're like they're just like following me, or there's people that never even like any of my stuff and will be like, I've been following you for years, or I've been following you for blah blah blah, like, and then they're like, how can I work with you? And like those people, they don't just magically show up. It's whatever I've been doing the entire like 5 years plus or whatever, how long that it
Yeah.
and that it helps. And I think that that's really important. There's like no quick thing to anything. It's like
Right.
this quick, go buy this, you'll get this results. It's quick. Nothing is quick. Like
Mm-mm.
quantum, I don't care if you call it quantum. That doesn't matter either. Like it does not matter what you call it. It needs to be from like trust. And like then I will buy. Like it's just like we're all brands. So it's like I don't you can't make it even make sense in my mind of why people do that.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this powerful conversation, Maggie. And make sure, like she said, check out her links. If you're listening to this, they'll be below in the show notes. And if you're watching this over on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube. the Enlightened Misfits podcast, and also her links will be below in the description box. And if today's conversation resonated with you, make sure you share this with somebody that you feel that would gain knowledge from listening. I also will invite you into my Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood. This sisterhood is where heart-centered entrepreneurs come together to integrate human design, intuitive strategy, and nervous system regulation, and real life and real-time business mentorship without the hustle, pressure, and pretending to be something that you're not. So again, you can find that link below in the show notes or in the description box as well. And if you feel like this episode has supported you and you would make sure you're subscribed. Like I said, just a gentle reminder to make sure you subscribe and share this with somebody that you feel that would gain knowledge from listening. Until next time, keep trusting your timing, honoring your energy, and keep building your business your way. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next week. If today's episode spoke to you and you're ready to rise with support, I'd love to invite you in to the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood, a sacred community for spiritual entrepreneurs to heal, grow, and lead with purpose. You can join us by using the link below in the show notes or connecting with me over on Facebook or Instagram at The Mermaid Light. If you loved today's episode, subscribe, share, and leave a review. This helps support us reach more women who are ready to rise. Remember, your journey isn't about fitting in. It's about embracing the truth of who you are. Until next time, stay inspired, stay aligned, and keep creating your extraordinary path. This is Lauren, and you've been listening to the Enlightened Misfits podcast.